First question that most people ask when someone, especially a young person, dies is, wow, what happened to them? They're healthy as far as you could see, as far as everyone around them knew they were healthy. And then all of a sudden they just die in their sleep. And so you are, as a human being, questioning why they died, because there's a part of you that wants to take inventory of your own mortality. And so it is almost an extension of self-preservation to inquire into the cause of someone else's death. We just need that closure. But I'm here to tell you that death does not have a certain age. Death doesn't have a certain health status. You ain't gotta be sick. You can be a health nut and still die. You can be a vegan and a pescatarian. You can never drink, never smoke, and still die. That is the only thing that is promised to you. You're not promised a long life. You're not promised wealth. You're not promised a perfect family. You're not promised a perfect career. But one thing you are promised is you are promised death. Now, here's why we're going to talk about estate planning, because the tagline in the Black community is building generational wealth. We got to build generational wealth. But when I do a survey of clients that come to my office, clients that attend my webinars, they come to my in-person events that I do in DC, that I do here in Atlanta, and I ask, how many of you have an estate plan? And maybe one person might raise their hand. Death is not something that you want to think about in most cases. We go through great lengths to preserve our existence as a human being. But one thing you must do is face your own mortality. Now, proactive estate planning forces you to take inventory of your personal relationships. When you create that trust, you have to think about, who am I going to leave the house to, the investment real estate to, the stocks to? Who am I going to leave my retirement account to? Who do I want to be responsible for me if I am incapacitated and I don't even know I'm in the world? For example, had a client in my office told me that he was sitting with his wife. He just recently retired from FedEx. He was sitting down with his wife watching their favorite TV show. This was about 7 years ago. All of a sudden, out of the blue, she had a seizure and she died on the way to the hospital. The doctor said there was nothing wrong with her. And the husband was like, well, what is it? What do you mean there was nothing wrong with her? And the doctor said she died of natural causes. When it is your time to go, it is your time to go. And ain't gonna be no prayer that's gonna save you. And I know, yes, we all would like to think when we pray for God to heal that loved one from that terminal condition, because the humanity in us, the part of us that is tied to this earthly plane, wants to maintain that earthly connection. But we must live every single day embracing our own mortality. In so doing, you are aware, it makes you think about your health when you're doing your healthcare proxy or your living will with organ donation terms in there. Or do you want to be resuscitated? Who do you want making that decision for you? Tax rules which govern when the money should come out of the retirement account and how that money is going to be taxed. This goes far beyond just having a will and a trust. You can always have a will and a trust. Have you updated your will and your trust? Have you organized your estate plan in a way that the surviving beneficiaries that you've named within your estate plan can quickly and conveniently access your estate plan to make the decisions that need to be made? For example, just because you have the document doesn't mean that you are set up properly from an estate planning perspective if you haven't considered all of the other things that will come up after you have passed away. So what we're going to cover in the workshop is what you're going to need to know when you are gathering your documents to create your estate plan. For example, how does the probate process work? And how can you avoid the probate process? And what are some situations where assets don't go to probate? Not all assets go to probate. Just because an asset is not in a trust doesn't mean that it will go through the probate process. What are those assets?
How do you settle an estate, for example, if you are the beneficiary to an estate and the person left you an estate and you don't have a will, you don't have a trust? What does that probate process look like? Okay, what are some of the financial responsibilities of the beneficiaries? If you pass away and you leave debt behind, what debts have to be paid? What debts have first priority to what the beneficiaries are going to be received? Again, these are things you have to think about with your estate plan, besides the 11 elements that we just went over. And also how powers of attorney work, how they don't work, some misconceptions there, some mistakes that we make when we're transferring assets to our, say, son or daughter while we're living. You want to make sure you're thinking about some of the legal and financial liabilities that might come up if you, for example, put your son on title to your property while you're living, you pass away. That could create an income tax liability among some other legal things as well. Also, what happens when you inherit a retirement account? What are the income tax rules which govern how long that money can stay in that retirement account if you are maybe inheriting a retirement account from a deceased wife or deceased husband versus inheriting a retirement account from a deceased parent? What are some of the tax rules there that govern how that money should be taken out of the retirement account? How do you minimize the income tax increases that come as a result of somebody passing away? If you lose a spouse, your income taxes will increase. How are you planning for that? See, remember, you can have the trust and the will. The trust and will doesn't tell you how to handle the fact that your income tax bill is going to increase. If your husband passed away this year, well, guess what? In subsequent years, your taxes are going to go up because you go from married filing jointly to married filing what? You have the widow file instead, but basically you're going to have to file as a single person. So now your tax bill goes up. How are we planning for that? Okay. And then we're going to talk about long-term care. As you get older, right? Health things come up. What are we putting in place within our estate plan to help mitigate some of the risk associated with, for example, Medicaid? If you end up in a situation where you require Medicaid, Medicaid doesn't want you to have anything. They don't want you to make any money. They don't want you to have any money. How can you protect your assets, for example, if you cannot afford expensive long-term care insurance? So again, everybody, when we talk about the 11 estate planning elements, we're going to go beyond just the elements that you need for us, the documents. We're also going to cover some of these other legal and financial things, so as far as income taxes and debts, that you want to keep in mind when you're creating your estate plan and managing your estate plan, which is the last thing, making sure you have a system in place for managing your estate plan, updating the information, looking at that stuff every year, making those updates as they need to be made so that your estate plan is completely up to date.
Now, what I'm going to do now is invite you to register for our estate planning virtual workshop. There will be a link again around this video. Now, if you are like me and you are impatient and you ain't got time, you can schedule a consultation by going to blackwealthcompany.com, or you can schedule using the link somewhere around this video, and one of our team members will be happy to help you put together your estate plan. Again, all of your core documents will be included, but I do prefer that you attend the workshop because a lot of you don't attend my workshop and then you ask me a ton of questions. I'm like, if you attend the damn workshop, you'll be able to have all those questions answered. But nevertheless, I understand that time is short for some of you. So again, register for the upcoming workshop. We're going to talk through all of the things you need, not just the documents, but the plan you need to have in place to ensure that not only are we protecting your generational wealth, but we're efficiently transferring that wealth to subsequent generations. Thanks again for watching this video. This is Jerry Gordon, President and CEO of the Black Wealth Company, where Black wealth is our business.
Freedom, freedom with Jerry.